Hi Year 10, it's me, Mrs. Kahoot. Welcome to week 5 of short and sweet Year 10 GCSE PE with Mrs. Kahoot. Last week I rushed through principles of training at the end a little bit, so I'm going to go over it again just because you need to know SPOR and FITT. That's fact book definitions, will be on your exam, really important piece of information to know about. And you need to be able to apply it to your coursework. So talk about how you will apply those principles if you were going to do the training program that you create. I hope that makes sense. So just going back through then. Oh, slow laptop again. Let's get this badger sorted. Right, so SPOR. Think of, again, like I say, think of the principles as rules you need to remember. Each letter of SPOR stands for something, a rule that you must apply. Best training programs are going to apply all of them. So specificity, training should be specific to your sport and your activity, but also you. So your muscles, the type of fitness, and the skills that you need to practice. So some people will be good at shooting, some people won't be so good at shooting. Some people are good at defending, some people are good at attacking. Some people are good at long distance running. Some people's starts aren't very good. So there's lots of elements depending on what your sport or activity is. Just give you some examples here. So shot putter training needs to be different from a marathon runner, requires different levels of fitness, different skills involved. And again, same for a weightlifter. You want to train the right elements for your sport. Use the right type of training as well. We're going to look at types of training in a minute so that you could do types of training with your in your action plan, in your training program. So there's also a need for specific training within a sport. So remember, there are different positions, especially when we talk about games players. So a goalkeeper's training is going to be different from an outfielder's training. Progression then. The only way to get better at something is to gradually progress it. So increasing the amount of exercise you do. There are different ways that we can progress, which we'll look at when we talk about FITT. Overload then. So overload is just like how much you progress it. So how much harder do you make it? So how much have you adjusted that in order to take, and obviously it's important to take into account fitness level. Reversibility then. So reversibility can happen if you have to stop training. You still need to talk about this. So you're going to talk about how you're going to maybe include rest days so that you don't get injured, so that you don't experience reversibility. Some of you will have experienced this yourselves through injury. Again, like I say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So reversibility, this means that instead of progressing or remaining at the same level, the athlete loses fitness. So it can actually only take as little as 3 to 4 weeks to get out of condition. So it, implications for people that perform seasonally. So they will still be doing some element of training out of season because, they're going to experience reversibility. If not, it might be too hard to come back from. So FITT principle then, this relates to when you're trying to progress your training, when you're trying to apply overload. A couple of ways you can do it. One way is to increase the frequency, so increase how often you train for. Now you're going to need to tell me how often you plan on training, how often you plan on carrying out your training program. So it might be that in your action plan, you set out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like a little table, and you say what you're going to do, and then you do the same for week. You do that for week 1, then you do a week 2 one, and then you do a week 3 one. So that will clearly show how you've applied the principles. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. So you literally set out a table. Now some people have done that in the past and they tend to get higher marks when they've done that. So it'd be a good idea. Intensity, how hard you train for. So making the trainer harder each time is one way to progress it. How long? Anyway, a good way to measure intensity as well is using heart rate. So using heart rate to measure how hard you're actually working. So time, how long you train for. So each session really wants to be 20 minutes. If you're focusing on cardiovascular endurance, obviously you're going to be doing things for longer lengths of time. Type of training that we use. So we're going to look at methods of training in a minute, and you need to make sure that whatever you talk about doing to improve the skill that you've chosen is the correct type of training, the correct drill, the correct type of practice. Okay, so just process that now. Like I say, the best way to show how you've applied it is to use some sort of table maybe. So, different types of training then. You've got some key facts to learn this week about types of training. So, the main thing that I'm asking for you to do is to tell me, sorry, I'm just looking here, so what a drill is. Name all the methods of training to improve endurance, name all the methods of training to improve strength, name all the methods for speed, and methods for flexibility training. And then look at section 6 and 7 of your coursework. So, optimizing training, different types of training to work on different components of fitness, but also different types of training to prevent boredom. Now, the difference between a type of training and a drill is that a drill is a series of modified exercises to focus on improving a specific skill area within a sport. So drills and practices focus on improving a skill. So you should have more drills and practices in your coursework than you do types of training. But it's still important to have an understanding of this. This is a juicy, big topic that will come up on the exam. And it's something that you really need to be able to do and apply your knowledge to. So continuous training is a type of endurance training. It involves regular pace exercise at moderate intensity that should be 30 minutes or more. So it could include 30 minutes of running, walking, swimming, rowing, cycling, things like that. Anything that involves aerobic respiration. So where your body creates the energy using oxygen. Example then, a rower. So advantages then. You can see on there, little equipment, really good for aerobic fitness. Good for losing weight, although not essential for some athletes. It's more about the endurance. Can get really boring. Not going to improve anaerobic training. So if you're a games player, yes, you need aerobic endurance, cardiovascular endurance, but you are going to need some anaerobic. Similar to continuous training then. So fartlek is a type of continuous training. So if you had continuous training at the top, fartlek training would like drop down as a subcategory. So the word fartlek is from Sweden, Swedish word for speed play. So basically it's a combination of different intensities. So it gives the example of running one lap at 50% max, walking one lap and running one at 80%. The key difference between this and interval training is that there isn't a break. Now you might think one lap walking, that's a break. It's not a break, you're still physically active. So the difference between fartlek and interval there is an actual break where you stop all physical activity, whereas with fartlek you just change the intensity. So you're still physically active if you're walking. So this method of training is going to improve aerobic and anaerobic fitness due to the difference in intensities. Now you can also vary the terrain that you run on. So this type of fartlek adaptation is good for a games player because they're constantly changing speed within the game. Whereas this type of training would be really good for example like cross-country runners because it's done over different terrain. So running in woods, hills, roads, up and down hill. By changing the surface that you're running on, the terrain that you're running on, you are changing the intensity again. And that's similar to if you were running a cross-country route. Advantages again, similar then, so good for sports that require changes in speed, easily adapted, could just skip the hard bits, and difficult for someone to see how hard somebody's trying. Interval training then, so we just talked about this is a type of speed training. So it involves periods of work followed by periods of rest, periods of complete inactivity. So sprint for 20 metres, that should probably say walk back to the start and have a break and then go again. Okay, so that's really important, a proper break. We know that activities that are explosive, short physical activity is going to mean that you are respiring, so your body's creating energy without using oxygen because it needs it really, really quickly. And interval training replicates that. And then the rest, the stop phase, allows you to recover. So, for example, a sprinter is going to use interval training. How can the intensity be increased? So you decrease your rest time. You could extend how far you're sprinting for slightly, but not too much. And then you could use equipment to add a weighted vest, add a parachute on the back. These are all things that you could be inputting into your program if speed is something that links to your skill. So advantages, quick and easy to set up, mix of aerobic and anaerobic, represents team games, hard to keep going if you get tired, and again could get boring. Circuit training is a really good one, very, very good for working loads of different things. Series of exercises completed one after the other. It's a very good way of developing strength, muscular endurance and power. You can work on anything you like with circuit training. You can overload one type of muscle by doing the same type of exercises. You can mix and match it. You can give yourself rest periods. You can do a skill circuit rather than a fitness circuit. Really, really adaptable. could improve endurance, cardiovascular fitness. It could improve any component of fitness. You would just set up that circuit to be specific for improving flexibility or rigidity. So you just do loads of different drills or exercises that work on that component. Advantages, not expensive. You could do it just using your body weight or things you have around the house. Quick and easy to set up, can be adjusted for a specific skill or a specific sport. So here it says netball specific circuit. Requires the athlete to be motivated. You know, you've got to keep going round, keep moving on to the next thing. Weight training then. So it's going to improve different area muscular fitness types depending on what type of weight training you can do. So it could increase strength, endurance, power as well. Really important to have rest days after weight training. But if you want to improve muscular strength, you start with you use high weights and you do low reps. Muscular endurance, low weight, high reps. Good thing about weight training is you could train any muscle that you like within the body, so you can focus on a certain area. Look at that. Advantages again, strengthens certain muscle groups, like I've said, can be adapted. Can increase soreness, so it's important to take rest days. And if they're not done correctly, it could result in an injury. Plyometrics then. P for plyometrics, P for power. Really good for activities that involve jumping. Long jumpers, sprinters, basketball players. The idea is that the muscle is lengthened before being shortened really, really quickly. So things like bounding, hopping, jumping. You can see here someone's doing some jumping hurdles. We've done some plyometric training before. It can take quite a while though to see improvements and gains, about 8 to 10 weeks. And again, has to be performed carefully because it just put quite a high level of stress on the body. Easy to set up, hugely effective. Could increase chance of injury there as a disadvantage. HIIT training then. So it involves high intensity effort. That's what it stands for, high intensity interval training. So it's a type of interval training. Short intense bursts. So it kind of combines interval training and circuit training. Okay, that goes on to warm-ups. Now we've talked about methods of training, but because I'm asking you to choose a skill weakness to base your training program around, you're going to want to focus more on drills and practices. You take things and individual things from the different methods of training and incorporate those into your drills and practices. But that's probably where you want to focus more of your energy and time on. Like I said, my advice is to set up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, have a couple of rest days in there, and literally set out what you would do on each day. So there should be a few different drills each day to work on that skill that you want to improve. Now if you're struggling for drill ideas, think about stuff you've done in lessons, think about stuff you've done in coaching sessions. If you have coaching sessions for that sport, go online. There is so much information out there online. If you type in your sport, and you type in a drill or you type in a practice. Now if your sport is more individual, so gymnastics, dance, things like that, then you might find that you will talk about methods of training a lot more than drills and practices. It's about thinking about what is really going to improve that skill that you have picked out and making sure that whatever you write about in your action plan matches up with the skill you've chosen. Obviously you need to learn these methods of training and you need to try and match them up with different components that I've asked you to in your fact book, but then your task relates to the drills and the exercises and the things that you are going to create, that action plan, that training program that you're going to create to improve that certain skill. And my advice is to think that if you had somebody that came to you and said, I'm not very good at this skill in this sport, what can I do to improve? Whatever you create needs to actually do that. So that's just something to think about. Like I say every week, I'm on Teams. Now I know it's the summer holidays, but if you want to contact me, I will still be going on periodically to check my emails. I'm here to support you as much as I can. If you want extra work to do, I can set you extra work. If you aren't getting much done, but you're just watching these videos, then that is better than nothing. Do what you can, and then maybe the next day, push yourself a little bit further to do a little bit more. Like I say, no one's behind. I will catch you up. Email me any queries. Miss you all, you guys. See you soon. Take care. Enjoy the sunshine. Bye.